Hi, we're here today to talk about the increased costs of running a shop today from the overhead, paint materials, labor, and such things. So I'm Bruce Halcrow.
I'm Barry Dorn.
Andy Tilka.
Dominic Martino.
So Barry, you want to talk about what's hitting you the hardest right now?
You know, Bruce, first of all, I'm so excited to be here at SEMA. It's so good to get out, so good to see everyone, so good to see the energy that's at this show. So for me, it's like coming back home. So that's the first thing. Now let's go to the bad news. Okay, we talked about the good news. Let's go over some bad news. The bad news is Bruce, and I would love to hear what you guys think. I don't know if there's anything within our business or our business model, regardless of what business model you have, that hasn't been impacted by increases in costs. I mean, I'm trying to think of something that I can tell you three that is the same or has gone down since we were here last year, since we were just here, in the same seat a year ago. I'm sorry, gentlemen, I can't think of or tell you one thing that has gone down. Maybe there's nothing in our world that hasn't, from a low of 20% to a high of 60% that has gone up.
So I think that each market has its own unique set of challenges. Our shop is in Chicago, and if you watch the news, you know that there's a lot of crime in Chicago, and we see a lot of auto theft type crimes. So we've actually had to hire an armed security guard that stands outside our shop and basically just keeps an eye on the perimeter of the property and actually blocks our main gate and moves back and forth. That's a $2,000 a week overhead cost that I don't, how am I to recoup that? I don't know, and just security in general, especially in some cities like Chicago. That's a very unique, major overhead cost for us that we did not anticipate.
Well, let's stick on overhead for a second, because security costs, like you said, overhead, everything's rising, right? Inflation with the insurance, with garbage man, with anything, right? So, we were wondering, like ourselves, how we were going to combat this, because labor rates don't just combat higher overhead cost. If the consumer price index is 8%, are we giving our staff 8% raises? And in addition to 8% raises, those aren't even paying for the increase in overhead. Those are just paying to compensate the staff. So we have to think, about our costs on where it should be compared to inflation, consumer price index, and educate ourselves on that on the Bureau or Labor Bureau.
Yeah, in my area, we got winter coming on. The price of heating oil, the price of power, it's up almost 30%. And to do that, every time we have to open an overhead door to move a car, the heaters all kick back on. It's going to be a challenge this winter, just in overhead costs in the facility, not to mention the increase in all the materials that we use, and labor. Our employees are demanding raises at this point. It's no longer asking.
I mean, when you just simply look at it, and Andy, you brought up a great point on healthcare. I know for our facility between 21 and 22, we had a 61% increase in our healthcare. That's coupled with a 40% increase the year before. So when I look over the past 10 years, it's been almost a 200% increase in that time frame just in insurance costs alone. Now, thankfully, not trying to tag anything in here, but thankfully we've gone through SCRS and they've got a phenomenal healthcare process that actually saved us a ton of money. But even at that, if you look, Bruce, to your point on material costs. I don't know about you three, but I was getting increases from our vendor on from the beginning of or the end of 21 through 22 at almost every other month or every month. I was getting increases on all of the materials, skyrocketing. Totally blew my mind.
So how do you manage those increases for paint materials?
Andy, I mean, it's not like we can use less of them, right? So that's the first thing you look at is there a way to strategize to be more efficient with the materials that you have? And of course, there always is, but there becomes a point that we used to say that, okay, are we stepping over $5 bills to save 10 cents? You can't use a piece of sandpaper for so long. You can only use a sprayable ounce of liquid. It can only go but so far. So from strategizing with their vendors on how we can become more efficient, but honestly, I've got to pass that cost on. I mean, out of all of this, I can't eat this as a small business owner. I've got to pass this on to the consumer.
I don't think there's any choice. I don't see any other option unless you're just going to go broke. But at the end of the day, these are real challenges that we're facing every day, and new ones, pop up. I gave you the example of the security costs. Barry,
Did you have that cost just 3 years ago, Dom?
I did not. And because of a series of events, we were compelled to do that. And I know you work on EVs. We do as well. And you have a pretty large facility. I do as well. I have the capacity, but in the near future, if you're going to be getting into the EV space, land is going to become, you're going to need more square footage. That's going to become a greater overhead cost. Isolation of batteries. Again, these are all challenges. Fortunately, we have the capacity, but I have a lot of cars that are sitting around just waiting for parts or waiting for, insurance authorizations. So, at the end of the day, we're balancing all of this, and it's precarious at best.
Yes. No, so I wanted to add on to your point on EVs. It's not just the tooling, it's not just the training, it's not just the equipment. We have to keep all of these vehicles, and when it's we have a cold season too, nowhere near as bad as yours. But Bruce, I know you do as well, and Andy, you do. But when you look at the increase that we have to keep these vehicles charged, when it's cold, they've got to keep the battery. The battery has to keep itself warm, so it's constantly churning. I know just our power bill, not including the power we had to run to it, additionally to keep up with all this, and that's mostly due to the equipment. But just from a charging aspect, there's any given moment. We have 15 stations now that vehicles charge on, and they're constantly going. Just our power bill alone has gone up $5,000 a month just because of that. Just because of the excessive, there's cars that are charging all weekend too, and we have to pay people to come in, especially when it's really hot or it's really cold. We have to pay people to come in on weekends to alternate cars on charge.
Well, and so materials, it's a smaller portion of our business, right? And then the big daddy is labor. I feel like within the past few years, we've had to create positions, right? Researching OEM procedures is one of them. This business has been created to be so admin heavy now. I feel like this industry used to be a 4-to-1 ratio, technicians to office. It's pretty much a 1-to-1, if not the office outweighing. Did you guys create new positions in the past few years that kind of have to increase admin?
That's a great point. And yes, we have same thing, researching OEM repair procedures. We added somebody in parts just because of our sheer volume, and just getting someone in the door, it's not minimum wage anymore. Nobody walks into my door for less than $18 to $19 an hour, $20 an hour, and that could be for a porter. So as things are not going to get better in the short term, right? So whatever assistance you can get from any type of programs that are available, internships, it's a great way to be able to get some people into your business. that can help you run your business, but at the same time may not cost you as much in terms of the overhead, the labor.
One of the positions that we've had to rethink how we staff is parts. A lot of it because of the supply chain issues and being on the phone constantly trying to source parts because maybe our usual vendor doesn't have it. We've got to make, 4 or 5 times the amount of phone calls and the contact to do that. That's created a full-time position.
To add on to all of you, because it seems like all of you talking about parts here again for some reason. The very same thing. We've had to add on 2 assistants to our parts manager. In 2019 and before, it was one person that could do it all for everyone, because that's all they do is parts, nothing else. And now they have 2 for the same reasons that you guys are talking about. But it's, we have had to add in more blueprinters. We've had to add in folks that only research and supply OE repair procedures. So not only that, but also the infrastructure costs of the IT. I mean, again, air industry is really not in this. But so many people want to work from home, right? But, or work remotely. I don't see an end to this. If you look at just our employees, if you've got employees that I'm sure all of you have pulled folks from outside your market, is that fair? I mean, if you pull employees outside,
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So their drive at 3 times the cost of fuel now, their drive has gone up. Now, I will say this, and this actually blew my mind. I had one of our technicians who does have a long drive. He went out and bought a used electric vehicle. A technician bought a used electric vehicle because gas prices were costing him so much. He went out and bought one just to try to keep his costs down. But there's some that can't do that. So they're coming to who? They're coming to you. Right? And hey, I've got this issue, and you've either got to fix it, or what are they going to do? They're going to find someplace close to home. Well, you can't afford to lose that. No matter what position they're in. I mean, every position is hugely important.
No doubt, and we still have 2 employees that are working remotely. One 100% that lives in Indiana, had her 3rd child, and for the reasons that you're describing, Barry, it worked. It just works, and it's great for morale and the culture. The other person is a couple days a week. Right, and both of them probably live the furthest away of most of my employees. So it is a big benefit to them, and it is, it's a way to, like you said, you're cutting fuel costs, daycare, just the time factor. It's huge. So there's, the remote thing. As much as we thought it was over, we may have to resurrect that again for some positions.
How do you manage remote workers to bring down costs? Is it kind of a trust factor? Is it a checking in? How do you go about doing that?
There's a trust factor, but we also, we have an IT department, so we do watch the time on the computer. But again, we've created an atmosphere of trust and collaboration, and it just works really well. And we get so many compliments on our guest advocate manager, Kate, and because she's a happy, productive employee. And at the end of the day, we can't do that for every position, but if we can offer that to some, it's one step in the right direction.
Sooner or later, you just keep losing office space with adding employees. That's the only option, right? Creating office space in the employees' homes, and back of the house as well is a huge thing. Barry, to piggyback off of what you were saying, culture aside, you have 2 choices: grow your own or pay more than your neighbor. And that's a huge part of where we're in. Apprentices right now are huge, but that's an additional cost, right? Because apprentices aren't necessarily profit centers. We're growing our own and spending money, investing our money, hoping that these individuals will work out. So additional costs that we're spending, as well as competing with our neighbor.
We stopped hiring. Just being candid, hiring technicians, experienced technicians. Just being candid, we saw a lot of The ways they want to do business are outside of how we want to do business. So 15 years ago, we set up an apprenticeship program. So literally everyone, with the exception of one, just being candid, in our facility started out with us, started out at 17, 18, and have worked their way up. And we have some, we have certified technicians that we actually have a Mercedes elite technician. The youngest that I'm aware of in the nation, or what I was told, 24 years old. And he's a Mercedes elite tech now. But he's never worked anywhere else. And so they only know our culture. They only know our way of doing it. So I'm not saying my way's right, by no means, but I'm saying for us, I can't just go, you're not going to find them unless you get into it, back of Andy's point, to a price war, okay, and that does nobody any good. Two is that you end up bringing someone else's bad habits, or a collection of people, their bad habits, and that costs you. That costs you a lot, because the main thing that you lose is the most important thing. That's your culture. There's nothing more important inside of your four walls other than that culture.
And I like the idea of, not necessarily going after a high-level tech. We've had some very good success in the last 2 years with 3 or 4 young techs that we brought in. Some of them were still in tech school. And again, they understand the culture. They learn in it. They thrive in it. And we pair them up with a mentor. And it's been working very well for us. We're very pleased with the way it's come out.
So I just wanted to add one point to that. For those that are thinking of that, the thing that you got to realize, and this is where I see most apprentices or apprenticeships fail, is they think this person, whomever this person is, he or she, is going to come in and in 6 months, a year, is going to be ready. This is something that you're growing for 5 to 10 years minimally. You have to look at your ROI 5 to 10 years out. It is not going to solve your problem now, but you're growing someone that hopefully, if you do the right thing, that person will want to be there. He or she will want to stay. And I think that so many people go, hold on, this person isn't getting it done in a month, they're out. And I think we lose a lot of good people that want to do it, but nobody's mentored them. They have to be teamed up with a mentor. But back over to cost, that cost is all on us. It's 100% on us, and even because we have mentors there, and you have to qualify to be a mentor, because not everyone is one. As all of us who've worked in shops know, there's a lot of people that should not be dealing with anybody. But point being, so they have to qualify for it. Well, that takes them time, because they're stopping what their productive hours to help them. So that's a huge increase in cost.
Just like you said, it's an investment. It's this ROI. We are quick to buy a piece of equipment because we know it's going to make our lives easier, and there's an ROI attached to it of 3 or 4 years. We have to see it the same way with apprentices, I feel like, and really know when is that person going to be generating. And you want to put time and effort into this person. It's an investment.
And to your great point, and we've had more success retaining our younger technicians than bringing in a seasoned tech, and then 6 months later they're gone, or 3 months later, and it's amazing how a lot of the changes we've made were just born out of the necessity to find a solution to some of these problems, and it's incredible. I'm fortunate to have as fellow board members and shop owners the ability to collaborate with these men and others in our group, and just in general. So I think the answer to a lot of these issues and problems can be found in collaborating and in reaching out to your tribe, so to speak.
No, and I think, Dom, I couldn't agree with you more. That my time with SCRS, and not just showcasing that, but obviously that's how I met you all, right? And some of that's good, and some of that's bad, right? But the ability to strategize and speak of and be candid, and none of us are worried about from a competitive aspect. Yep. We all have pushed each other to be better. Now, that's not a sales pitch on that end, it's just a fact. So I've learned a lot, both in reducing costs and changing my business model through you guys. So getting with an association, whether it's your local association, whether it's a national association such as SCRS, those are the vehicles that are going to help you. Trying to row that boat alone and do it all by yourself and kind of muddle your way through it is never going to get you anywhere. Collaboration with your peers and more importantly, the collaborating with like-minded individuals, like I think all of you are, and know all of you are. I'm just being candid, but those are the types of things that open up my eyes, because there's sometimes that as a business owner that you don't see the forest for the trees. You think that's going great. It's not, especially once you see it and once you speak to someone else. So Dom, could not agree with you more on that.
It's important. I mean, I think in order to not only sustain but grow in this industry in the near future, it's going to require some extraordinary relationships and the ability to think outside of the box and come up with solutions that maybe didn't even originate in our industry. Came from somewhere else. So now is the time to be reaching out and trying to get the information that you need, and do it now. Don't wait until you got a for sale sign up on your business.
So I do see a benefit in increased costs. And the benefit for us is it forces us to be leaner. It forces us to be leaner on the operation side, being a little more streamlined, saving money. I mean, as simple as lowering the garage door or the overhead door when it's winter time just all these little things you start paying attention to. It does make you a better business owner, having the focus on these things and being sharp, and then you just keep improving your business. Do you guys agree on that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, like you just said, with the overhead door, absolutely. I think that it's difficult to really, hone in on a solution that is going to be applicable to every situation that's in your shop. To your point earlier, Barry, everything's going up now. It's the cost of insurance. It's the energy costs. Energizing your business for EV, and that's not going to end. I mean, that's going to continue, and I think it's up to us to find a way to make it work.
One of the things we've really honed in on is material and the increase in materials. It's been last couple of years we've taken 2 or 3 increases from our paint provider. It's almost 2023. And we're still getting reimbursed for material using an arbitrary number multiplied by an arbitrary number. When are we going to get to a place where we're actually running off an invoice and knowing exactly what we used, exactly what we have for a markup, and making that a profit center? Because I can tell you today, making money in the paint department or off materials is way tougher than it was even 2 years ago.
Bruce, do you see that as more of a normal now, or becoming more of a normal? Charging off the invoice instead of doing an hourly rate for materials?
Well, we do it, and of course, the pushback we get, you're the only one. But we do it, and there's a lot of times that the customer may have an out-of-pocket on that. We're just not in a situation where we continue to eat that to satisfy a bill payer.
The thing I think, and this is back to your point, Andy, I think that we've all got to clearly understand that unfortunately, because of these costs, because of the complete change in business model that we've all had to go through, that the days of us being able to shield that from our customer, which is what we've been doing my entire career, and I know you have as well, it's over. I think we're moving more towards the healthcare model, which is, okay, you've got a deductible, but you instinctively know that you're still going to have other costs that are going to have to go in there that the carrier isn't going to pay for. And unfortunately, I think that's 100% where we're at. The realities of it is that where I think a lot of us have done a decent job at knowing air true costs, knowing what that means, and knowing what we have to go through, whether it's certification or even DRP, it doesn't matter. Knowing those costs and then being able to bill for it, because if you don't know the cost, you're literally guessing. Unfortunately, a lot of our peers do that, and it's got to stop for them, not us. I mean, because they'll be gone. So I guess in some ways that could be a good thing, but it's not. We don't want businesses to fail. We want them to thrive. And if you don't know your costs, if you don't know, to Bruce's point, what exactly that costs you, and get a fair markup on it. I mean, there's nothing here at this show, as all of you know, that is given away. There's no free lunches, and there's no free lunches with us either. Unfortunately, we have to transfer that balance to the vehicle owner and whomever that may be. It's not rules that we made up. It's not rules that we agree with. It's not rules that we designed. It's unfortunately we're thrust into the game with the rest of the folks. So no, I hear you loud.
Well, it's again the industry is evolving again, and I think the sign of a good shop owner is one that can evolve and change and adapt. And we in our facility, we were working on EVs 6 years ago. We went towards the technology. We moved towards it. And so a lot of the challenges that are going to be coming for shops that will be getting into electric vehicles, we've already solved some of those issues. So I think you're going to see a lot of challenges in the future. And it's not, again, it's going to get harder before it gets easier.
Well, and I want to mention, because I'm really proud of SCRS. So they took this demand from the body shops of the increase of health insurance, the making the employees happier with zero copays, smaller deductibles, better health care. And I'm super proud of the SCRS with the healthcare plan that they did evolve and create. And I tell you, just talking with the people that ended up with the plan, almost guaranteed 10%, 15% savings, and their employees are happier because they have cancer care, they have zero copays, they have more options. And I'm blown away by that, and that definitely helps us with cost savings.
What we ran into with it, not only was it a 10% savings, but it also saved us the 20% increase we were going to take on of our old health insurance plan.
Well, and again, one more thing I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up is the 401k plan. I know on our end alone, just being candid, that saved us almost $20,000 just on the 401k plan. So, I mean, those are some things that we see this. We want to fix it. So I think, we're on the right track. We got a long way to go, but this is always a journey. It'll never be a destination. But that was all I had, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's great. And it's not all misery, right? Everything, we're learning from this. We're creating better, we're being better shop owners and being better in the industry. And there's all these options that are coming up now in the industry to help us out. Industry's evolving. And, so yes, we're increasing costs, but we're increasing our creativeness in this business.
Well said, Andy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.